Hello everyone. Today in this lecture we will be discussing the fourth module of CS202, that is computer organization and architecture. So these are the things that we have to cover: the basic concepts, semiconductor, RAMs, memory system consideration, semiconductor, ROM, flash memory, cache memory and its mapping functions. So all these things we have to we have to complete in fourth module. Actually, the basic concepts says about the size of the memory, the maximum size of the memory that can be used in any computer. How do we determine? We have studied it in the first module. The basic things we have studied. So, for example, if a computer system has got 16-bit address, and that computer system can address 2 raised to 16 locations. 2 raised to 16 locations means 64K memory locations. So that is called the address space. Similarly, machine source instructions. It can utilize a memory that contains 2 raised to 32, that is 4 GB memory locations. So anyway, depending on the address, number of bits that is used in the address will determine the number of memory locations that can be addressed by the computer. And most modern computers are byte addressable. We have seen this one also. What is byte addressability? Byte addressability we have seen in the first module. So today's computers, most modern computers are byte addressable. So and the memory, and another point we have seen this one also. What is the word length? Word length means the number of bits that can be processed by the computer is called the word length. Or in terms of memory, when we are talking in terms of memory, the word length refers to the memory designed to store and retrieve data. The number of bits that can be stored or retrieved in word length quantities. Okay. So the number of bits that can be stored or retrieved in one memory access is the most common definition of the word length of a computer. Okay. So now consider a byte addressable computer whose instructions generate 32-bit address. We have seen if it is a 32-bit address, we can address 2 raised to 32. 2 raised to 32 locations we can address. 2 raised to 32 locations we can address. And when a 32-bit address is sent from the processor to the memory unit, it is we are sending the address from the processor to the memory unit. The higher order 30 bits determine which word will be accessed. That all depends on the architecture that we are using. Okay. If a byte quantity is specified, it depends because it is byte addressable. We already said it is byte addressable. We are assuming that it is byte addressable. And in this case, 2 bits are used to, that means a word contains 4 bytes. Okay. So if a byte quantity is specified, the lower order 2 bits of the address specify which byte location is involved. So in a read operation, other bytes may be fetched from the memory, but they are, so in the read operation, when we are performing a read operation, the bytes may be fetched from the memory, but they are ignored by the processor. That means in this case they are talking about word addressing. So our computer is actually byte addressable. Okay, so with that we have mentioned in the first point, it is a byte addressable, and we are assuming that the instructions generate 32-bit address, and in this case we are assuming that a memory location contains 4 bytes. Okay, so these 4 bytes can be separated using the lower order 2 bits. Okay, so in the read operation, the other bytes may be fetched from the memory, but they are ignored by the processor. We will see all these technical details behind this one. We will see. And in a write operation, what we do, the control circuitry of the memory must ensure that the content of other bytes of the same word are not changed. So when we are performing the write operation, we must ensure, or that control circuitry must ensure that the other bytes except the byte that is intended to write, only that should change. The other things should remain intact. Okay. Then and now we will see the connection. We will see the connection of the memory to the processor. That is, we have 2 registers. Whenever we are talking about the memory related operation, we have two registers. One is called MAR and the other one is called MAR. What is MAR? Memory Address Register. What is MDR? Memory Data Register. All these things we have studied in the previous module. And here in this case, we are assuming that the address bus is of length k bit and the data bus is of length n bit. Okay. So here we are using k bit address lines. That means 2 raised to k locations can be addressed. That is what is written here. So the memory should contain up to 2 raised to k addressable locations. If it is above than, if the memory device contains number of locations above this 2 raised to k, the processor cannot address because MAR can accommodate only 20 k bit address lines. Okay, and here we are saying that it is a word n bit data bus we are using. N bit data means 2 raised to n. So we will say that word length is of n bits. That is why in the previous slide, if you look at the previous slide, we are talking about 32-bit address. So that means we are talking about 32-bit computer. Okay. So let us go to the next one. That is word length, then bit data bus. And obviously we have control lines also. And these control lines may contain a read slash write bar. So one slash bar is missing, read. Usually we will write read slash write bar. Similarly, memory function complete. All these are the signals that may be present in the control lines. And here for memory read, what we will do, how we will perform the memory read operation. So for memory read, address into the MAR and setting R slash WR bar. Okay, so R slash RW bar means what? So here in this case, actually this is W bar. Okay, and in this case also it is W bar. Okay, so when we want to perform a memory read operation, the address into the MAR, we will place the address. We are performing memory read operation. So we need the address in MAR and setting the R slash W bar to 1. Reading operation. So that should be active high. And we are setting that line, this line, to be active high. Okay. And memory response, MAR, we will write, the processor will put the address in MAR and then it will activate the control line. So upon receiving this R slash W bar, the memory responds by placing the addressed data. Now we will get the address of the location here. And then what it will do, here the control line is active and the memory will place the data into the data bus. So what will happen next? So it will go here, the data will be placed here onto the data line and confirms by asserting the MFC signal. Also that MFC, memory function complete, that means the memory is sending another signal to the processor saying that the data is available in the data bus. That means it is available in the MDR. So what it will do, the processor can read the data from MDR and the memory read operation is finished. And what about memory write operation? When we are performing the memory write operation, we will place memory write. We want to write some location into the, in that case also we will place the required address in the MAR and the data in the MDR. In this case, we will place memory address as well as the data. Okay, but in memory read, we will place only MAR. It is the responsibility of the memory to place the data in MDR. Okay, but when we are performing the memory write, the address will be placed into the MAR and the data to be written into that location will be placed into the MDR, and then it will set the R slash W bar to 0. 0 means W line is active, so it is active low. That bar indicates that it is active low, so it will finish the memory write operation. Okay, now we will see the other parameters related with memory. That is a parameter is called memory access time. So that is memory access time. What is memory access time? A useful measure of the speed of memory unit in the time that elapses between the initiation, that is the time that elapses between the initiation of an operation and the completion of that operation, and that is called memory access time. So it is the time that spends in between the initiation of an operation and the completion of that operation. That is called memory access time. And the next one is memory cycle time. What is memory cycle time? That is another measure used to indicate the performance, which is the minimum time delay. This is the minimum time delay required between the initiation of any two successive memory operation. It can be memory read or it can be memory write. So memory cycle time is actually the minimum time delay that is required between the initiation of two successive memory operations. So a memory unit is called, another point related with memory is, a memory unit you can call it as a random access memory. When? If any location can be accessed for a read or write operation in some fixed amount of time, that is independent of the location address. So a random access memory, what do you mean by a random access memory? If any location can be accessed for a read or write operation in some fixed amount of time, that is independent of the location address, and that is called, such a memory is called random access memory. And the processor of a computer can process instruction and data faster than they can be fetched from the memory. So the processor of a computer can process instruction and data faster than they can be fetched from the memory. So that actually creates a time gap. It is saying that the processor of a computer can process instruction and data faster than they can be fetched from the memory. So that actually creates a time gap between the processor and the memory. So how do we manage, or how do we fill that time gap? For that we have, that is the memory cycle time is actually the bottleneck. That is what is talking about memory cycle time. What is memory cycle time? The memory cycle time is the minimum time delay required between initiation of two successive memory operations. When we initiate a memory operation, we have to wait till that operation is completed. Then only the processor can initiate another memory operation. Okay. So this cycle time is actually the bottleneck. Cycle time is actually the bottleneck between in the system. So how it will happen? The speed gap. It will happen because of the speed gap between the processor and the memory. Speed gap between the processor and the memory. Okay. Now we will see another concepts related with the memory. That is one way to reduce. How do we reduce this memory access time? So how to reduce? What are the techniques that are available to reduce the memory access time? Is to use a cache memory. We have a lot of methods. One method, we have a lot of methods, but one method is to use a cache memory. So what is meant by a cache memory? Cache memory is actually, you must understand, it is a small fast memory that is inserted between the larger smaller main memory and the processor. That is, it is a cache memory. It's a small memory and it is inserted between the main memory and the processor. Okay, so such a memory is called. So actually it acts as a buffer between the processor and the main memory. Okay, so virtual memory is another technique. Virtual memory is another technique. Cache memory is one technique. Virtual memory is another. A lot of I already told you, a lot of mechanisms are there. Virtual memory is another technique used to increase the size of the physical memory. So we have to manage the time delay. We have to manage the size. So if you want to manage the time delay, you can use cache memory, you can use registers that we are not discussing here. Anyway, virtual memory is another one which will manage the size restriction. Okay, so in the virtual memory, data are addressed in the virtual address space that can be as large as the addressing capability of the processor. But at any given time, only the active portion of this space is mapped onto locations in the physical memory. So it is actually a virtual address space. Virtual means it is not in existence. So it is actually created just to give the view that a very large memory exists in the processor, exists in the computer system, and only the active portion of this space is mapped onto locations in the physical memory. Physical memory means it can be a magnetic memory. Okay, it is a magnetic disk. It can be a semiconductor memory. Anything can be. Anything can be a physical memory. Okay, so now we will see the different types of memory. From this slide onwards, we will be discussing the different types and its working. So the first one is semiconductor RAM memory. What is semiconductor RAM memory? RAM means random access. Okay, so available in wide range of speeds. Semiconductor, depending on the technology that is used for the manufacturing of this memory, it is available in the wide range of speeds. Reduction in cost made them more attractive. That is why nowadays we are using this semiconductor type of memory. Reduction in cost, very large scale integration, make it cheaper. Okay, memory cells are, in this case, the memory cells are arranged in the form of arrays. Arrays, the concept of arrays, I think you know. So here, in this case, the memory cells are arranged in the form of arrays. Semiconductor memory, the memory cells are arranged in the form of arrays. And each row of cell constitute a memory word. And all cells of a row are connected to a common line, referred to as word line. Okay, so each row is arranged constitute a memory word. Each row in the RAM, semiconductor RAM is called a memory word, and all cells of the row. We have different cells. For example, if 32 is the memory word, then 32, you can see 32 cells in that row, and all these 32 cells are connected to a common line, and that is called a word line. You must remember word line. What is the word line? Similarly, the cells in each row are connected to another circuit that is called a sense or write circuit by 2-bit lines. We will see this diagram. We will see. So sense write circuit is there. Okay, and during a read operation, what is happening during a read operation? The circuit read the information stored in the cells selected by the word line. So the word line is responsible for selecting the cells during the read operation. The word line will select the cells and transmit this information to the data output, that is bit lines. Okay, so the responsibility of the word line during a read operation is to select the appropriate cell, and the bit line or the data output line, what it will do, it will carry the information that is requested. And what about during a write operation? The sense or write circuits receive the input information, that means the data, and store it in the cells of the selected. How do we select? Using the word line. We will select the appropriate cells and we will write it to the. So this diagram will show you the details. So it's actually a 16 by 8 organization. Why it is called a 16 by 8? Because you can see 16 rows. You can see 16 rows, or we can call it, this is one row, or word W0, the second row, and this is the last row. Okay, and 16, that is what is meant by 16 in this case. And what about 8? 8 means, in this case, see, if you look at the bit lines, B0, this is B0, this is B1, this is B7. So how many columns you can see? 8 columns you can see. Did you understand the concept of 16 by 18? 8 means 16 rows, 8 columns. Okay, so if you want to address this memory, how many bits we need in the address? We need 4 bits. Why? Because 2 raised to 4. 2 raised to 4 is 16. That means we will be selecting this row. We will be selecting this row or this row. That means 2 raised to 4. So how many combinations we will get? 16 combinations, 16 different combinations we will get. So this W0 means the address corresponding to that may be 0, 0, 0, 0. So at that time, which row will be selected? This row will be selected. Okay, so that is the case. Now, if that is selected, what will happen? The data that is available in this row will be transferred to these bit lines, B0, B1, B2 up to B7, with the help of sense or write circuit. So what will happen? it will take the data, so it will flow like this. So such 8 lines are there, so it will be transferred to this. Do you understand? So if this is selected, what will happen? The data in this cell will be transferred through this path and to this line like this, and then the data will be available as B7. Okay. Similarly, this same thing will happen for all cells. Okay. So that is during the read operation. When we are performing the write operation, the address decoder will select the row for writing, and the data will be available in this sensor B7, B6, B5 up to B0. And what will happen? The sensor write signal, the circuit will write the data into the appropriate cell. Okay, and this is the working of a 16 by 8 memory. I think it is clear, is it? Okay. Now we will go to the bigger one. There is an organization of 1k by 1. That means 1k means 1094. 1k is 2 raised to, it is 2 raised to 10. It is 2 raised to 10 is 1024 locations. Okay. So that is this 1k represents. 1k is 2 raised to 10, that is 1024. So you can see 1024 locations by 1. That means what? Only 1 bit of information. We need only 1 bit of information at a time from the memory chip. So here the memory chip that is used is 32 by 32. What does it mean? That means 32 rows and 32 columns are there. 32 rows and 32 columns are there. So 32 means 2 raised to 5. 2 raised to 5 into 2 raised to 5, that is 2 raised to 5 plus 5, that is 2 raised to 10. Okay, that much number of bits are there. See, in this case only 1 bit we are deriving. We are deriving only 1 bit. So this will act as only 1 line. This one will act as only 1 line. Only 1 output or 1 input line is there. So only 1 data line. Let us say it is B0. Okay, only 1 data line is there. Okay, now what here, only because of this memory chip, because it is a 32 by 32, that means 32 rows are there, 32 columns are there. Okay, so if you want to address 32 rows, how many bits we need? We need 5 bits. Okay, so we need 10 bits address because it is a 1k memory. We need 10 bits to address all those cells, but we are dividing this 10 bit address into 2. That is 5 bit for selecting the row and the next 5 bits for selecting the column, this one or this one. Only we need only 1 output bit at a time. That is why. Okay. So if we are placing a combination like 00000 here in the 5 bit decoder, it will select W0, and from the W0 we want only this bit. In that case, just write 0000 here. So it will select only this bit position. If it is B0, if we denote it as B0, what will happen? B0 will appear here. If you need 1 bit 1, here we will place the address as 0001. So that will select the next bit and you will get B1 as B0. Okay, that is the concept here. And the multiplexer. Why we use multiplexer? Because we need, see, this row will select the entire, it will activate, this row address will activate the entire row. But we don't need that entire row. We need only 1 bit. As per this requirement, we need only 1 bit in the output. So we are applying this 5 bit column address 00. So this multiplexer, the responsibility of, so all these are active. When we select the first row, all the cells, all the data in this row is available here. But from this available data, we need to select only 1 bit. That is why we are using a multiplexer here. And 1 bit for 1 input, 1 output. When we are reading, we are using this 1 output line. And when we are writing data, it will act as the input line. The data will go into this one. When we are reading, the data will go out of this chip. Okay. Similarly, here the chip select and read bar, write bar. So those things will control the operation. whether it is a read or write operation. Since here we are using only one chip, so this chip select will be always high. Okay, if we are using multiple chips here, this according to this the chip select signal will vary. Okay, now we will see the next one, that is about static memories. What about static memories? Static means it won't change. So the memory that consists of circuit capable of retaining their state. So that is the important point, retaining the state as long as the power is applied are known as static memory. So the memory that consists of circuits capable of retaining their state, it is called static memories. Okay, so that figure, if you look at that figure, you can see a RAM cell. This is actually the figure. This I'm talking about this figure. This figure actually shows a RAM cell. Okay, it actually stores only one bit of information. Either you can read one bit of information or you can write one bit of information from this circuit. That is meant by the sentence. Figure shows a static RAM cell. Two inverters. I think you have studied this transistors, inverters, everything in the previous semesters. So for the construction of this static RAM cell, what we are using? We are using actually two inverters. Two inverters are cross connected. In the diagram you can see two inverters. These are the inverters and they are cross connected to form a latch. And the latch is connected to two bit lines by transistors T1 and T2. Here if you look at this one, you can see two transistors, T1 here and the second transistor T2 is here. Okay, and what is the role of that transistors T1 and T2? They act as switches. Actually their role is to act as switch that can be opened or closed. That is the responsibility of the switch. Either it will be opened or it will be closed. Okay, under the control of word line. So we are using these two transistors as switches under this control of this word line. You can see this is word line. Okay, and when the word line is at ground level, the transistors are turned off because it is connected to the base. Okay, so when we keep the word line in the zero voltage, ground level means maybe zero voltage. If it is placed in ground level, so what will happen? These transistors are off. That means these switches are off. Okay, and the latch retains its state. And these are the latches. So whatever charge is there or whatever memory is there, whatever bit is there, those bit will remains the same. Okay, now how do we perform a read operation? How do we perform read operation and how do we perform write operation on the same cell? So the same thing is written here also. Okay, read operation. To perform a read operation, if you want to perform a read operation on static memory, the word line is activated to close the switches T1 and T2. The word line is activated to close the switch T1 and T2. Okay, so when you activate this line, that will cause this T1 and T2 to switch off. If the cell is in state 1, what will happen? The signal on bit B is high and the signal on B bar. B bar means it is a complement. So it is low. The opposite is true if the cell is in state 0. So when you close this switch, what will happen? When you close this switch, the data that appears here will appear in the bit line. And coming to the write operation, what about the write operation? The state of the cell is set by placing the appropriate value on bit line B and its complement. So if you want to write some data, we will place that data here and the complement here. Okay, and then activating the word line. When you activate the word line, what will happen? It will close this T1 and T2. T1 and T2 will be closed. Closed means what? It will appear here. That will appear here. Okay, so that is the case of static memory read and write operation. Okay, and CMOS realization. This is actually another one that is using the realization of the same static memory cell using the CMOS technology. And here we are using another two set of transistors T3, T5 and T4, T6. So you can see in this diagram T4, T3 and T5, T6. Okay, in state 1 the voltage at point X is maintained high by, here also we are using T1 and T2. These two transistors will act as switches. Okay, so the voltage at point X is maintained high by having transistors T3 and T6 on while T4 and T5 are off. Okay, and thus if T1 and T2 are turned on, bit lines B and B bar will have high and low signals, as I said. Okay, if the power is interrupted, the cell contents will be lost. So that is true. All these transistors cannot actually store the data. Okay, when the power is off, what will happen? This is V supply. That is, when this power is off, what will happen? The cell content, whatever values are there, you will lose it. Okay, so when power is restored, the latch will settle into a stable state. Depends, but may not be in the same state as before. We cannot say it will be in the same state as before. Okay, so what is the major advantage of CMOS compared to the other one? CMOS RAM is very low power consumption. It actually uses very low power for its working, and the static RAM cells can be accessed very quickly. So these are the two advantages related with the static memory. These two are the two advantages related with the static CMOS realization. Okay, now we will go to the next one, which is called asynchronous DRAM, dynamic RAM. So static RAMs we have seen, they are fast, but they come at high cost because the cell requires several transistors. So whenever the number of transistors are more, definitely even though the cost is less, we can say the cost is less, but still because of the presence of the transistors, that will make the system more costly. Okay, so static RAMs, that is the problem with the static RAM. So they are using actually more transistors. Here also we have to use transistors, but we need less number of transistors for the construction of asynchronous DRAM compared to static RAM. So information is stored in a dynamic memory cell in the form of charge. So that you must notice. So in this case, the data is represented in the form of charge on the capacitor. Okay, so and it can be maintained for only few milliseconds, very few milliseconds it can be made. Hence it must be periodically refreshed. That is a problem with the asynchronous DRAM. So we must refresh it periodically to keep the capacitor in its full value. So to store information in this cell, what we will do, this is the diagram. If you look at, this is the diagram. Okay, here you can see the bit line, word line. To store information in this cell, the transistor T is turned on. So what will happen when T is turned on? What will happen? The word line, actually when you activate the word line, it will cause this transistor to open. So what will happen? The voltage in it will go through this capacitor, which causes the known amount of charge being stored in the capacitor. Okay, so that charge will act as the data. Okay, so next we will see the read operation. So during the read operation, the transistor is actually during the read operation, the transistor is selected. The transistor in the selected cell is turned on. A sense amplifier connected to the bit line detects whether the charge stored on the capacitor is above the threshold value. If so, what will happen? It drives the bit line to a full voltage that represents logic 1, and it recharges the capacitor to full voltage. So that is what is happening during the read operation. So this type of memory is actually called asynchronous memory. In the name itself, we have seen asynchronous. Why it is called asynchronous? Because we are not using any control information from the processor. Instead of that, they are using a separate signals that is called RAS, read, RAS and CAS. Okay, so these are the two special signals that we will use to govern the timing. So that means for the working of asynchronous RAM, we are using separate control lines, separate control signals. Okay, so next we will see the diagram of a typical asynchronous DRAM. In this case, you can see we are going to implement a 16 megabit memory. 16 megabit of memory. Okay, so it is configured, it is organized as 2m into 8. That means in a row we have 2 MB and we need to derive only 8 bits of information at a time. But the chip is actually arranged like this. It is 4096 into 512 into 8. What does it mean? 512 into 8 means, see, this is the organization. In a row, you can see 512 blocks, and each block is of 8-bit length. Okay, in a row you can see 512 blocks, and each block is of length 8 bits. Okay, such 4096 rows are there. Such 4096, or in other words we can say 4096 into 4096. Okay, so 4096 rows are there. Similarly, 4096 columns are there. But these 4096 columns are organized into 512 blocks of 8 bits. Each block is having 8 bits of information. So how do we read information? So to read, as I said in the previous slide, for asynchronous RAM we are using special signals as RAS and CA signals we are using. And this is actually how many bits we need to address? 16 megabit. Okay, 16 megabit, and it is configured as 2M into 8. Okay, so 2M, 2 megabit. 2 megabit means 2 raised to 20. So how many address we need? 20 address lines, 21 address lines we need. 2M. It is not 1M, it is 2M. 1M is 20 bits are enough, but if you want to address 2 mega, we need 21 lines. So that is why it is written like a A0 to A20. A0 to A20 means 21 address lines are there, and these 21 address lines are actually divided. We are dividing these 21 address lines into two. First one to select the row, and the next one to select the column. Okay, so if you want to access this 4096, how many bits we need? 4096 means 404 into 1024. 4 into 1024 means 4 into 2 raised to 10. 4 into 2 raised to 10. 4 into 2 raised to 10, or 2 raised to 2 into 2 raised to 10. That means we need how many bits here? We need this much, A9 to A20. They are used to select the row. Okay, and the remaining, that is 512. Here we have 512, is it? So to address that 512 we need 9 bits. We need 9 bits. So that 9 bits we are using to select the column. So this A9 to A20, that means 12 bits. 12 bits are actually used to select the row, and the remaining 9 bits we are used to select either this or this block or this block or this block or this block. You understand? So such 512 blocks are there. We need to select only one block from 512 blocks. Okay, so this address is divided into 12 bits and 9 bits. We have total 21 bits, and this 12 bits address actually select the row, and the 9 bits to select the byte. That is A9 to A20 lines are used to select the row, and A0 to A8 lines are used to select the byte in the row selected. So this A9 to A20 we will send it to address latch, row address latch, and the row decoder will select the appropriate row. Okay, next we will send this 9-bit lines to this column address latch. So this column address latch, actually the column decoder will select the appropriate column from the 512 block. Okay, so as a result what we will get? We will get 8 bits in the output line, D0 to D7 output line. We will get only 8 bits as the output, and that is what is written here. During a write operation, the row address is applied first and will be loaded into the row address latch in response to RAS. Okay, and then a read r/w bar. Okay, so it is W bar. Then a read operation is initiated in which all cells on the selected row are read and refreshed, and shortly after row address is loaded, the column address. Here actually we are using a multiplexing operation. We are dividing these 21 address lines into two, so that only 12 address lines are used in this diagram. Only 12 address lines. Here this is actually only 12 address lines. Why it is so? Because
we don't want to select the row and column at a time. So this 12 bits, we will use only 12 bits for the representation of this address. Why? Because in the first cycle, when this, along with this arrays, we will send the 12 bit. Then we will get the row selected. After that, we will, in the same path, we will send the 9 bits. So that will go to the, and using this CAS. So when the CAS is active, that will go into this column address latch, and it will go here. So that you can reduce the number of address lines that is written here. Okay. So next, we will see what is meant by fast page mode. What is fast page mode? So in the previous example, we have seen when the DRAM shown above is accessed, the contents of the 4096 cells in the selected row are sensed. That row is active, the full row is active, but we are deriving only 8 bits. Okay, and on the data line D0 to D7. This byte is selected because the column address. Because we are placing some specific column address. Okay, but a simple modification to this can be done so that it makes it possible to access the other bytes in the same row, because that row is selected, and using the column address we are deriving only the few block, only one block we are deriving. But if you make some simple modification to this scheme, what you can read the entire row without reselecting the row, because we have already selected that row. So if you have selected that row, then a simple successive generation of the column address will make it possible to derive, or will make it possible to get all the data from that, all 512 blocks of data from that row. And this mode of operation is called fast page mode. A latch can be added at the output for make it the row accessible. Transfer of successive bytes is achieved by placing a consecutive sequence of column address under the control of successive CA signal. Successive CA signal will cause the entire row to be read. Okay, and this block transfer capability is referred to as fast page mode feature. That is possible in the case of asynchronous DRAM. And now we will see synchronous DRAM. So the structure of synchronous DRAM, it will look like this. So the DRAM whose operation is directly synchronized with a clock signal is called synchronous. In the previous case, we are using two signals which are called RAS and CAS. That is why it is called asynchronous. But in this case, if you want to make it synchronous, what you want to do? Just use the clock signal. Just use the clock signal that is generated from the processor or from the external source. Okay, so in that case you can call it as a synchronous DRAM. So the data and the address connections are buffered by means of registers. So if you look at here, so here the column address and the row addresses are coming, and the row address will separate the row, select the row in this memory array, and the column will select the column. But if you look at this, you can see one chip select and one clock signals are there. So under this clock signal, under the control of this clock signal, we can make this circuit synchronous. A read operation actually causes the contents of all cells in the selected row to be loaded into the latches. If an access is made for refreshing purpose, it will not change. Refreshing means we are using the DRAM, dynamic RAM, so we need refreshing. So instead refreshing, we can make it possible. So SDRAMs have different mode of operation achieved by writing control information into the mode register. This mode register is available. So either you can work it as a synchronous RAM or you can work it as an asynchronous RAM by writing appropriate information in this mode register. Okay, so this we will see best read operation SDRAM. SDRAMs have several different modes of operation, as I said, which can be selected by writing control information, sufficient control information to the mode register. You can write it and you can select the mode of operation. The best operations are one of them, and it uses a block transfer capability described above as the first page mode in the feature. So it is possible. Block transfer is also possible. That means we are transferring the entire block of data in the selected row. Okay. In SDRAM, it is not necessary to provide externally generated pulses because CAS line we don't want. But why? Because it is operating under the control of a clock signal. So the necessary control signals are provided internally using a column counter on the clock signal. Okay. And now this is the diagram. This is the timing diagram related with the bus read operation. So you can see the clock signal is determining everything. So if you look at any of these diagram, it starts in the positive going edge. This is the positive going edge of the clock. So here also the transition taking place, the operation starts in the positive going edge, here also the positive going edge, here also the positive going edge, and the address is also placed in the positive going edge, and the data is also sensed in the positive going edge of the one. So here we are initiating the read/w bar operation, read/write bar signal. Along with this RIS and CAS, we are placing the address, then it will place the row address, and when the CAS is active, it will place the column address, and after one clock pulse, the data is available in the data bus. Okay. And now we will see some parameters related with the memory, latency and bandwidth. So the transfers between the memory and the processor involve single words of data or small blocks of data. We have seen either you can transfer, or we can read or write a single word of data, or you can read or write a block of data using appropriate control signals. The speed and efficiency of these transfers have a large impact on the performance of the computer system. And a good indication of the performance is given by two factors. They are latency and bandwidth. What is latency? The term memory latency is actually used to refer to the amount of time it takes to transfer a word of data to or from the memory. So that is meant by latency. So what is latency? It is the amount of time it takes to transfer a word of data to or from the memory. That is latency. And in block transfers, the term latency actually used to denote the time it takes to transfer first word of data. Okay. And the next parameter is actually bandwidth. When transferring blocks of data, it is interesting to know how much time is needed to transfer an entire block. Since block can be variable in size, we can determine or we can control the block size. It is useful to define performance parameter in terms of the number of bits. So either it can contain 1 bit, say 2 bit or 8 bit or bytes of information. So to represent this parameter bandwidth, what we will write? We will write this performance measure in terms of the number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. The number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. So this measure is often referred to as the memory bandwidth. And the bandwidth of the memory unit depends on the speed of access to the stored data and on the number of bits that can be accessed in parallel. So actually, what is bandwidth? It actually depends on the definition of bandwidth is like this. It measures actually the number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second, and the factor depends on the factor, the speed of access to the stored data and on the number of bits that can be accessed in parallel. Okay. And this is structure of large memories. In the next slide, in the next talk, I will tell you about the rest of the topics. Thank you for your patient listening.